According to the most recent FBI statistics on hate crimes in 2011, 46.9% of more than 6,200 hate crimes that year were racially motivated. 20.8% resulted from sexual bias. Another 19.8% were motivated by religion, and 11.6% stemmed from ethnicity and national origin bias. One person who knows this personally is Staff Sergeant Deondra Parks. 3 years ago, she was attacked by a gunman on Adolf Hitler's birthday just because she's black. She joins us now via Skype from Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio. Sergeant Parks, thank you so much for being here with us.
My pleasure.
I know that you are a survivor, and we want to talk about your survival skills and just the human spirit that you have. But let's go back to that day 3 years ago. You were in a restaurant studying with friends for an exam, and then Ross William Mulberger walks in. What happened?
All right. We had just seated to begin a study session on airway the next day. I was in an EMT course for the Air Force at Shepherd Air Force Base. And I chosen to take the study session off base to Hastings, which is also a video or bookstore, which has a small cafe inside. We were seated there. He walked up beside us. Before I could say anything to him or acknowledge his complete presence, he stated it was Hitler's birthday. Or, hey, niggers, it's Hitler's birthday. And I'd never in my life been called such. Part of me wanted to confront him before I could even respond. My classmate across from me was hitting the floor, and he'd opened fire with a 12-gauge shotgun. I tried to run away, but I was tripping over every chair in sight, and I felt a shot graze my head. And that's when I realized I really need to get down. I'm his intended target. I need to get down. Shortly after getting down, and I decided to lay there and play dead, not to move. Shortly after I did that, he walked over and he shot me. I received the brunt of the blast in my lower leg, across both of my legs. But after he shot me, I didn't move, I didn't beg or plead. I just really wanted him to go away. I didn't want to give him a reason to shoot me again.
I want to jump into the telling of your story right there, because I want to make sure our viewers understand. You were trying to get away, you get shot, and then you lay perfectly still while he shoots you point blank. How on earth were you able to do that?
Honestly, I just did not want to give him a reason, to shoot me. And my training in the Air Force comes in key. I've been deployed to Iraq. I've guarded sensitive weapons for my country. And I always told myself, if it gets to a point where I cannot defend myself, then that's what I would do. I never thought that would be the situation. I thought it would be at war, not in my own backyard in the United States.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm just wondering, Sergeant Parks, have you ever been the victim of a hate crime? And when did you realize you were being targeted because of the color of your skin?
I realized I was being targeted at about that night. I've never been a victim before. I've never been called a racial slur at all. That night, after the first two shots rang out and he continued to scream white power, and he walked past several other people, in the cafe to get to myself and two other females who were African American. I knew that I was a target. I was sought out. He was there for us.
I'm just wondering, has this made you more cautious around other people? Has it instilled in you at all a sense of bitterness or anger?
If you're asking if I look at, I guess, Caucasians differently, not at all. Like, obviously I suffer from PTSD, and one thing that I still deal with to this day is that I'm obsessed with something like that happening again. No matter what the color of their skin may be, just that incident or that such happening again. I don't hold any bitterness or hatred towards anyone for something that he did. And I also I didn't speak with his family, but I sent a message to his family to let them know that I don't blame them for what he did. You understand?
Wow, where do you get that, the spirit of forgiveness and overcoming such horrible adversity?
Well, myself and one other survivor that night, Jade Henderson, we decided early on in our recovery that we would forgive him for what he did. we prayed for him, we prayed for ourselves, we prayed for our family. We knew that it would be a rough time, but we walked away from that night, you know, with our lives, and that's what we focus on to this day. We're moving forward.
You know,
And I was not ready to end my career in the Air Force, as you can see.
absolutely, absolutely. You know, we live in a time where bias is very common, not just racial bias, gender bias, as well as sexual orientation bias. What's your message to people who want to create differences based on where we're from, how we look, how we live our life? What do you say to these people, and how can we achieve, if you will, an atmosphere of tolerance in our society?
I face every day with positivity in every situation. Just be positive, or try to be, you know, the difference and the change that you want to see in your environment. You know, I didn't give up because the one reason I didn't give up is because everyone would understand why. And I didn't want to succumb to that. I could have walked away from this career. I could have, you know, collected disability, but I wanted to help my fellow airmen, soldiers, and sailors out, and let them know that we too can, you know, rise above any and everything, whether it's sexual assault or, you know, racial, you know, discriminations or anything of the sort, that we can arise, we can get above it, and we can continue on and hold strong.
Sergeant Parks, as you know, your assailant killed himself shortly after he attacked at that restaurant. Has that made it more difficult for you to recover, that you were not able to confront him, not see him brought to justice?
Well, I have faith in my justice system, and I know either way that he will have ended up where exactly he is now, you know, wherever that may be. But it didn't, no, it doesn't bite. I never actually really thought about that. And I wish that I could face him, you know, but again, like I said, I reached out to his family, you know, via Wichita Falls Police Department, to let them know this is something they have to live with, and
Right.
this is something that we're both living with, you know.
Staff Sergeant Deondra Parks, I want to thank you so much for being willing to tell your story. Thank you for your
Thank you.
courage, and thank you for your service to this country.
Thank you.